Have you ever had one of those nights? The kind that starts with absolutely no plans, just a lazy evening stretching out before you. And then, completely out of the blue, it transforms into something unforgettable. A night you'll be telling stories about for years to come. Well, let me tell you about mine. It's a true story, and it all started on a ridiculously ordinary Tuesday. I was at home, sprawled on my couch, scrolling endlessly through my phone. You know the vibe. My biggest decision of the night was what to order for dinner. My friend Alex sent me a text, just a simple, "What are you up to?" I replied, "Absolutely nothing." Embracing my inner potato, I figured that was the end of it. But a minute later, my phone rang. It was Alex. "Dude, get dressed," he said, his voice buzzing with an energy I definitely wasn't feeling. "I'm picking you up in 15 minutes, I tried to protest. I brought up my commitment to the couch, my very important date with a food delivery app.
He wasn't having it. "Trust me," he said.
You don't want to miss this. Now, a little context about Alex. He's always been the spontaneous one in our friendship. The guy who decides to drive to the beach at 2 a.m. just to see the sunrise. Most of the time, his random ideas are brilliant. Sometimes, they end with us lost in the middle of nowhere with a dead phone battery. It's always a gamble. But that night, something in his voice told me this was one of the good ones. So, with a heavy sigh, I peeled myself off the couch and threw on the first clean clothes I could find. 15 minutes later, Alex's beat-up old car rattled to a stop outside my apartment. I hopped in. "All right, what's the big secret?" I asked, buckling up. He just grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye. "You'll see." And we drove. We didn't head downtown towards the usual bars or restaurants. Instead, we were heading out of the city towards the industrial district, an area of town that usually shut down completely after 5 p.m. The streets got quieter, the streetlights fewer and farther between. We pulled up to a massive old warehouse. It looked completely abandoned. The windows were boarded up, and graffiti covered most of the brick walls. "Alex," I said, my voice a little wary, "did you bring me here to get murdered?" "Because if so, not cool, man." He laughed. "Relax, just follow me." He led me around to a small, unmarked steel door at the side of the building. He gave it a specific knock, 3 quick taps, a pause, then 2 more. A small slot in the door slid open and a pair of eyes peered out. A muffled voice asked, "Password?" Alex leaned in and whispered something I couldn't hear. A moment later, we heard the sound of several locks turning, and the heavy door creaked open. The contrast was immediate and staggering. The grimy, derelict exterior gave way to a world of vibrant color and sound. We stepped into a huge, cavernous space pulsating with life. The warehouse had been transformed. Strings of colorful fairy lights were draped from the high ceilings, casting a warm, magical glow over everything. The air was thick with the smell of sizzling food and the sound of live music. It was some kind of secret, pop-up night market. Dozens of stalls were set up, run by local artisans and chefs. One corner was dedicated to a band playing incredible funk music that had everyone dancing. Another area had people gathered around, watching a street artist create a massive, stunning mural on a temporary wall. The energy was electric. It was this hidden, thriving community, completely invisible to the outside world. I just stood there for a minute, completely stunned. "How did you even find this place?" I asked Alex, shouting over the music. He just shrugged. "A friend of a friend. It happens once a month, always in a different secret location. You only get the address an hour before it starts." We spent the next few hours just exploring. We tried food I'd never even heard of. There was a woman selling Korean-style corn dogs that were crispy, sweet, and savory all at once. A guy was making fresh, hand-pulled noodles right in front of us, serving them in a spicy, numbing broth that was out of this world. We sampled artisanal chocolates, homemade kombucha, and tiny, delicate pastries that looked like works of art. But it wasn't just about the food. It was the people. Everyone was so open and friendly. We struck up a conversation with the jewelry maker who was crafting beautiful silver rings from old spoons. We talked to the band during their break, a group of college kids who were just so passionate about their music. There were no pretenses, no cliques. It was just a collection of people who had stumbled upon this hidden gem and were there to share in the joy of it. As we were wandering, we came across a small, quieter section of the warehouse. A man was sitting on a stool with an old-fashioned typewriter. A small hand-painted sign in front of him read, "A poem for a memory. Pay what you feel." I was intrigued. Alex and I walked up, and the man, who had kind eyes and a warm smile, looked at us. "Give me a memory," he said. "Something happy. Something real." I looked at Alex, and we both knew what to share. I told the poet about a road trip we took years ago. How we got hopelessly lost, ended up on a deserted dirt road with a flat tire, and had to wait for hours for a tow truck. But instead of being stressful, we just sat on the roof of the car, told stupid jokes, and watched the stars come out in a sky with no light pollution. It was one of my favorite memories. The poet listened intently, nodding slowly. Then he turned to his typewriter, and his fingers flew across the keys. The clacking sound was rhythmic and soothing. A few minutes later, he pulled a small piece of cardstock from the machine and handed it to me. He had turned our simple story into a beautiful, short poem that perfectly captured the feeling of that night. It was magic. I dropped a 20 in his jar, feeling like it wasn't nearly enough. Later, we found ourselves drawn to the center of the warehouse, where the funk band was back on stage for their final set. By this point, almost everyone was dancing. Grandmas were grooving next to teenagers. People in suits were dancing alongside people with brightly colored hair. It was a beautiful chaos. Alex and I, who are notoriously bad dancers, just jumped right in. We didn't care how we looked. We were just caught up in the pure, unadulterated joy of the moment. We danced until we were drenched in sweat, laughing so hard our sides hurt. As the night started to wind down, the band played their last song. A slow, soulful melody filled the air. People started to pack up their stalls, the buzz quieting to a gentle hum. Alex and I found a spot to sit on some stacked pallets, just watching the scene unfold. We didn't say much, we didn't need to. We were both just soaking in the last dregs of this incredible, unexpected experience. The drive home was quiet. The city was asleep. It felt like we were returning from another world, carrying a secret that nobody else knew. I had the small poem in my pocket, and the taste of those Korean corn dogs still lingered on my tongue. My muscles were sore from dancing, and I was exhausted, but in the best possible way. When Alex dropped me off, I turned to him before getting out of the car. "Thank you," I said. "Seriously. That was amazing." He just smiled, that same grin from earlier. "See? Told you to trust me." That night, as I finally collapsed into my bed, I thought about how easily I could have missed it all. I could have stayed on my couch, ordered my food, and let the night slip by, completely unremarkable. But because of a single, spontaneous decision, I had a story to tell. A memory that still makes me smile whenever I think about it. It's a reminder that sometimes the best moments in life are the ones you don't plan. They're hidden behind unmarked doors, whispered passwords, and a friend's crazy idea. They're the nights that start with absolutely nothing and end with everything. So the next time a friend calls you out of the blue with a random plan, maybe just say yes. You never know what kind of magic you might find. It might just turn into a story you'll be telling for the rest of your life. Thanks for listening to mine. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.